Jenna couldn't shake the unsettling feeling that something was terribly wrong. She began to lose sleep, the nights growing darker and more oppressive. The girl appeared every night at 3:17 a.m., staring at Jenna with those dark, empty eyes, whispering the same words over and over. "He's still here." At first, Jenna tried to ignore it, but as the days passed, the presence in the house grew stronger. Objects began to move on their own, books falling from shelves, doors slamming shut, lights flickering. She could feel eyes watching her, even when no one was around. One evening, Jenna decided to confront the girl. She waited in the hallway, determined to speak to her. At 3:17 a.m., the girl appeared, just like before, standing in the same spot. Jenna asked shakily, "Who are you? What do you want?" The girl's mouth moved, but no sound came out. Her eyes were black as coal, and for the first time, Jenna felt the true weight of fear. She backed away slowly, but the girl reached out, her hand cold as ice, grabbing Jenna's arm with an unnatural strength. "He's still here," the girl whispered, this time with a terrifying clarity. Jenna ran out of the house in a panic, desperate to escape. She found herself standing in the street, her heart racing. Her mind was flooded with questions. What did the girl mean? Who was he? And why was she trapped in this cursed house? The following day, Jenna went to the local library, searching for answers. After hours of digging through old newspapers and records, she uncovered a chilling story from the early 1970s. The house had once belonged to a reclusive priest, Father Victor Hawthorne. In the early 70s, a string of suicides plagued the neighborhood. The locals believed the house to be cursed, and many residents reported seeing strange shadows and hearing whispers at night. Father Hawthorne had been seen performing exorcisms in the house, trying to rid it of a malevolent spirit that had taken hold of it. But after a failed exorcism, the priest disappeared. He was never found, and the suicides continued. One particular detail caught Jenna's attention. A young girl had died in the house years before, under mysterious circumstances. Her name was Emily, and she was believed to have been the priest's niece. The records indicated that Emily had been close to Father Hawthorne, and after her death, things in the house had turned even darker. That night, Jenna knew she had to leave the house, but as she prepared to move out, she heard the soft sound of footsteps behind her, slow, deliberate, and getting closer. She turned around, heart pounding, only to find Father Hawthorne standing in the hallway, his eyes hollow, his figure shrouded in darkness. "You can never leave," he whispered, his voice barely audible. Jenna's world shattered as the house seemed to close in around her. She screamed for help, but no one came. The last thing she saw was Emily, standing silently in the corner, watching her with those same black eyes. And then, nothing. The next day, the house was empty again. Jenna had vanished without a trace, just like Father Hawthorne. No one knew what happened to her, but those who moved into house number 112 after her were never heard from again. And so, the house remained silent, empty, waiting for its next victim. And so, the curse of house number 112 lives on, a chilling reminder of the spirits that haunt the dark corners of the world. If you ever find yourself walking down East Village at night, you may hear the faint sound of footsteps behind you. And if you turn around, you might just see a little girl waiting for you to join her in the house that never lets anyone leave. As years passed, rumors about house number 112 continued to swirl. The building remained abandoned, but whispers of its cursed nature spread throughout the neighborhood. Those who had heard the stories refused to go near it, and the house became an eerie landmark, a reminder of the darkness that lingered within. However, in 1998, a new family moved into the house. They were unaware of the tragic history and the horrors that lay in the house's walls. The family, a couple named John and Sarah Whitaker, along with their young daughter, Emily, were looking for a fresh start in the city, drawn to the cheap rent the house offered. They moved in with excitement, oblivious to the danger they were stepping into. At first, everything seemed normal. The family unpacked their belongings, settled in, and even joked about how spooky the house felt. But things quickly took a turn for the worse. It started with strange occurrences. Sarah noticed that the kitchen utensils were always rearranged when she woke up in the morning, as though someone had been cooking in the night. John heard faint whispers when he walked through the hallways late at night, but when he tried to find the source, there was no one there. Emily, their young daughter, began to have nightmares. She would wake up in the middle of the night, screaming about a man in the shadows who told her not to leave the house. Sarah thought it was just a child's imagination, but Emily's fear was palpable, and the nightmares grew worse. One night, after a particularly terrifying dream, Emily woke up in the middle of the night and ran into her parents' room. As she sat trembling in their bed, she whispered, "He's here. I saw him again. He's the man in the shadows, and he says you can't leave." John and Sarah were now both terrified. They couldn't ignore the strange occurrences any longer. Desperate for answers, they went to the local library, where they stumbled upon the same records Jenna had discovered all those years ago. When they read about Father Hawthorne and the mysterious deaths, their blood ran cold. Emily's name stood out, and the connection became too eerie to ignore. The same name as the young girl who had died in the house before. That night, Sarah stayed awake, watching over Emily as she slept. At exactly 3:17 a.m., the bedroom door creaked open, and Emily sat up in her bed, staring blankly at the wall. Her eyes were black, just like the girl's Jenna had described. In a voice that was not her own, Emily spoke. "He's still here. And now he wants you too." Suddenly, the house seemed to come alive with strange noises, whispers, creaking floors, the sound of footsteps running through the hallways. The walls seemed to pulse with a dark energy, and shadows stretched unnaturally across the room. Terrified, John tried to leave, but as he reached the door, he felt a cold hand grip his wrist. He turned to find Father Hawthorne standing before him, his hollow eyes staring straight through him. "You cannot leave," the priest whispered, his voice echoing with ancient power. John and Sarah, now fully realizing the true horror of the house, fled in a panic. But no matter how fast they ran, the shadows seemed to chase them. They were pulled back toward the house, unable to escape its grip. Emily, too, was dragged along, her small body lifeless and cold, her eyes still black as night. By the time the police arrived the next morning, the Whitakers had vanished. The house stood in eerie silence, as it always had. No signs of struggle, no trace of the family, just the cold, oppressive feeling that the house was waiting for its next victims. For years after that, house number 112 remained empty. People spoke of it in hushed tones, warning others to stay away. But occasionally, a curious soul would attempt to enter, hoping to uncover the truth or simply out of reckless bravery. None of them ever returned. And so, the curse of house number 112 lives on. It waits in the shadows, watching, whispering, and pulling anyone who dares enter into its cold embrace. Some say you can still hear faint cries at night, whispers of those who have disappeared, trapped within the walls of a house that has no escape.